You have watched a person leafing through a periodical. Sometimes he pauses and looks, sometimes he pauses and reads. It will make no difference how accurate your fact-finding has been or how beautifully your copy is written if your advertisement does not make your prospect pause and look and read. Before your copy has the slightest chance of working its magic, the prospect's attention must be arrested. Here's the only definition which old Aesop Glim asks you to memorize. The arresting power of an advertisement is the ability of the main illustration, the headline, and the layout, working as a composite unit, to force a reading of the first paragraph by those who are your prospects. In other words, don't figure that you have your prospect's attention until you have him reading the first paragraph. We shall soon discuss illustrations and layouts and the first paragraph and the other paragraphs. But first, we are going to talk only about the headline and its arresting power. Your headline must force a reading of the first paragraph by those who are your prospects. Those last 6 words are all important. Your headline should not even try to get your copy read by those who are not prospects. You will hear certain headlines described as stoppers. As far as I am concerned, a stopper is something which belongs in a bathtub. A stopper, as a headline, has 2 great weaknesses. First, it is apt to be so startling that it calls attention to itself as a work of art, as something in itself. The reader is apt to use up all his reserve of amazement on the headline and have none left to give to your copy. Second, and more important, if the headline's appeal is so wide that it catches more people than are prospects, it is exactly that much less effective for those who are your prospects. Perhaps this can best be illustrated by thinking of a speaker and his audience. If all are interested in photography, the speaker knows exactly where to start talking, to be sure of getting the interest of his audience. But if some are interested in photography, and some in automobile racing, and some in electronics, and some in child welfare, the speaker must so widen his appeal in order to establish a common meeting ground that he ends up by saying almost nothing of interest to anyone. If you were writing to women, the bias cut of a dress might be the most exciting news you could offer. If you throw away this powerful bait in order to write a headline to interest men also, you obviously lose half your punching power. Conversely, if you are trying to interest men in some new mechanical equipment, there is no point in putting on a headline which will also interest women who are not prospects. When you are selling Coca-Cola or Red Cross subscriptions, then you can assume that everyone is a prospect. Then your headline can be as broad as all humanity in its appeal. If you have a powerful illustration, arresting to your prospects, the headline may serve as an explanation for the illustration, or as an enlargement upon the idea in the illustration. Or the headline may act as step 2 in a sequence of ideas, the illustration being step 1 and the copy being step 3. When there is no illustration, your headline carries the whole load. For the present, whenever you write a headline, assume that there will be no illustration and that the headline must carry the whole load. It is all right with old Aesop Glim if you always try to give your headline enough arresting power to carry the whole load. If you accept the idea that your headline must force a reading of the first paragraph, then it is obvious that your headline must be much more than a label. It will not be sufficient to say, "This is an advertisement about duplex widgets." Conversely, if your headline is going to force a reading of the first paragraph, it must not spill your story, and thereby make further reading unnecessary. In short, your headline is neither a label nor your message. It is a provocation to read the first paragraph. Your headline should never be a command. Your reader recognizes no compulsion to obey your commands. You have no rights over him. Your headline should never be a question. Your reader recognizes no compulsion to take your questioning seriously. His immediate response is, "What business is it of yours?" Worse than that, he has a lot of the smart aleck in his makeup. He has an almost automatic impulse to answer an unauthorized question with a flip answer. The third possibility is that, even if he should take your question seriously, he will find a loophole whereby it does not fit him. Take the question, "Had much sickness at your house lately?" Now stop and think just how many answers you could make to that question, from the most profoundly serious answer to the most flippant. What chance is there that the reader, having thought up his answer, will then bother to read your first paragraph? Think back again to the reader leafing through the periodical. He obviously has no slightest desire to read your copy. You will not get it read by commands or questions. The prospect must be seduced, step by step. Commands and questions are not the technique of seduction. Your headline must not be a single word, unless that word has unusual attention-getting and curiosity-arousing potentials. Thus, Quiddiny might make a one-word headline for a packaged gelatin. Sooner or later, most copywriters discover the glorious abstracts: strength, dignity, beauty, etc. They become obsessed with the abstract idea and think that those words, of and by themselves, make headlines. There are few one-word or even two-word headlines that are not improved by the addition of more words. As against strength, consider the strength of an elephant, or the Jeep with the strength of an elephant. Your headline must never be deceitful. It must not promise more than the copy can deliver. The prospect must not feel that he has been tricked, such as, "The submarine that flies has not yet been invented, but it would be no more wonderful than our pink pills." Most of the discussion thus far has been on bad headlines. Our next section will concern itself more with what to do instead of what not to do. By way of an assignment, please buy a copy of Collier's magazine. Pick out what you consider the 5 worst headlines by the standards outlined in this section. Rewrite them as you think they should be. When making your selections, be sure you always put yourself into the position of a person who is a prospect for the product or service advertised. If you are a man, don't judge an advertisement addressed to women on the basis of how it strikes you as a man. And vice versa, dear ladies. Save your headlines for comparison with the assignments to follow. Arresting your prospects. An arresting headline is one that reaches out from the page, seizes the lapels of those who are your prospects, and persuades them to read the first paragraph of your copy. Unless your headline does all these things, selecting, arresting, persuading, it is not a successful headline. Unless it does all these things, your copy is not going to get a reading. Our immediate question is how to build a strong headline. It is almost easier to say what not to do than what to do. By the process of elimination, we can start out by saying that a strong headline may be a simple declarative sentence, having force and interest for those to whom it is addressed. However, this does not say that it must be a sentence. Many excellent headlines have no verbs, such as the American Locomotive headline, "A great honor for your daughter," or the Woodbury headline that became a slogan, "The skin you love to touch," or the all-time favorite, Cadillac. The penalty of leadership. An effective headline may gain a lot of intrigue by being very much in the if or when mood, such as, "Suppose we didn't bathe," or "If mother had only told me." Coming back to the simple declarative sentence, here are 2 from the Troy Savings Bank. "I like to stand on my own 2 feet," and "Father talked a lot of sense." I'm going to start practicing some of it, remembering that it is the job of our headline to establish a common meeting ground with our prospects, to initiate the process of leading the prospects from what they do know to what they don't know. It is not surprising to discover that perversions and adaptations of familiar sayings frequently make effective headlines. My all-time favorite of this type is the Listerine headline, "Often a bridesmaid, never a bride." In this case, the wording has not been changed. The familiar saying has merely been given a new significance. When playing with familiar sayings, you must always be on guard against producing some unexpected humor or some great disappointment. Take, for instance, little Jackie Horner, who put in his thumb and pulled out a plum. Your readers will certainly be disappointed if the plum he pulls out is some wholly utilitarian or prosaic object, such as duplex widgets, instead of something more appealing to the senses. We have stressed the principle of working from the known to the unknown, of endeavoring to establish a common meeting ground with our prospects. We start too far ahead with concentrated salesmanship. There can be exceptions to this. It is quite possible to arrest the attention of our prospects with something that is news, something entirely outside their past experience. But it must be something that they can accept and believe quickly. This quick acceptance may be because of their own past experience, or the convincing proof with which we immediately support our news. In the preceding section, we cited, "The submarine that flies has not yet been invented, but it would be no more wonderful than our pink pills." We cited this as a case of obvious deceit, which could only produce disappointment on the part of the reader. However, let us assume that a submarine that flies has been invented. With the many inventions of World War II, from radar to rocket guns, a submarine that flies would not be too great a surprise. We could use it for headline material if we could make good on the sequence of 1. A submarine that flies, 2. Has just been announced by naval authorities, 3. And our duplex widgets played an important part in the building of this new weapon. We shall soon have some sections on copy construction, which will include further discussion of false starts and good starts. At this point, let us pay our respects to the fact that how our headline looks is almost as important as what it says. You can say good morning in many different tones of voice, soft or loud, glum or cheerful, grudgingly, formally, or wholeheartedly. The words remain the same, but how the message changes. As the copywriter, you know the tone of voice in which you want your words delivered in order that they shall convey the exact shade of meaning you intend. It is therefore your job to indicate to the art director or the typographer just what this is. Typefaces and hand lettering can help you convey almost any shade of meaning, from a whisper to a shout, from a whiff of perfume to the ring of a coin or the rumble of a truck. Typographers and artists are skilled at their arts, but they cannot read your mind. Tell them what you are after. These same men can also help you place the emphasis accurately. Doesn't each of the following say something a little different from all the others? Please mind the capital letters. A great honor for your daughter. 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 What old Aesop Glim considers a very frequent violation and overemphasis is the use of false caps. Compare a great honor for your daughter with a great honor for your daughter. You want your headline to be read because the headline is going to help to get your copy read. Make your headline easy to read. The people to whom you are writing read hundreds or thousands of words of body text for every dozen words they read in display type. Therefore, the more closely you can follow the typography of body text in your display text, the easier it is for your prospects to read. Then when you make an exception, you get the emphasis where and as you want it. Be sure of this fact: if you emphasize everything, you emphasize nothing. Constant shouting is just as monotonous as constant murmuring. With this same desire to make your headline easy to read, you would do well to keep it under 14 words in length. If you find that what you want to say in your headline runs to more than 13 words, break it up into a headline and a subhead. See above. Father talked a lot of sense. By way of an assignment, buy a copy of the Saturday Evening Post. Pick out what you consider the 5 weakest headlines by all the standards thus far outlined. Rewrite them as you think they should be. Headline review. In earlier sections, we discussed the human instincts and desires and the fact that they are always dependable to fall back upon. The copywriter, playing the law of averages, can count on the fact that the great majority of his prospects have all 4 instincts and all 5 senses. This means that in making his appeal to the reader, he can employ any of the 4 instincts or the 5 senses, either alone or in conjunction with other material which his fact-finding has shown to be pertinent to the situation. This does not by any means signify that the instincts and senses represent the copywriter's total repertoire. We said specifically sometimes they are the only right starting point. Sometimes they are only a small part of our equipment. A dash of seasoning. We want to understand the instincts and the senses. We don't want to think of them as cure-alls. By way of an assignment, it was suggested that you write a breakfast cereal headline and then a wristwatch headline addressed to each of the 4 instincts and the 5 senses. Now, let us take a look at some of the better headlines that were sent in when this assignment appeared in printer's ink. In some cases, these are as written. In others, minor changes have been made. How do these headlines compare with your own? As you criticize these headlines, please keep 2 facts in mind. First, they were written as an exercise in trying to appeal to all the instincts and all the senses. Second, no one is suggesting that a wristwatch must be sold through an appeal to the sense of smell, for example. We merely tried to demonstrate that lacking any better headline material, it could be done. Fear, self-preservation. Cereal, trouble ahead. If you eat a calorie-starved breakfast, wartime mothers, don't dare get sick. The doctor said he was not strong enough. Wristwatch. This is the man who lost the contract. Try and get another Pullman reservation when your future is in these two hands. Hunger for food. Cereal. Like a steak for breakfast. The best reason for getting up when your mouth can't wait another minute. Wristwatch. The steak was timed to the second when your stomach tells you the time. Ham and eggs, please. And hurry it. Sex, love. Cereal. Beauty treatments begin. At the breakfast table, Ed's kissing me goodbye these mornings. This before 9 a.m. means a lovelier you at 9 p.m. Wristwatch. Counting the minutes you're apart. For a lady who is going places. The girl who never keeps me waiting. Rage, anger. Cereal. The children drove me crazy. At breakfast. The cereal and I were both burned up. Cereal half eaten again. Wristwatch. Some people don't care. How they waste your time. Excuses don't go. Never again will I be late. Thank you for watching until the end. If you want to go deep down into the rabbit hole of marketing and persuasion, click the link in the description where you will find many fundamental books about copywriting, psychology, and persuasion. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. See you in the next one.